welcome family and friends of the Talcott family. First off, we are very honored by the presence of Mrs. Talcott and all of your family. Couldn't be more proud to stand here with you, Bruce Bailey and myself, Neil O'Connell, and present to you a beautiful ceremony which will honor the courageous service of Sergeant Richard Talcott. I'm a trustee for the Mt Soledad Memorial Association. I'm also a Marine veteran. Today's ceremony will point out the service of Sergeant Richard Talcott. I'll be assisted in this conduct of the ceremony by Bruce Bailey. And I must note that Bruce was just recently our CEO of this association, and you may be familiar with him. I would like to welcome everybody, but before we begin, as we pause to reflect on the honor and the courage and dedication of Sergeant Talcott's service, I'd ask you to please stand with me as we march on the colors and pledge allegiance to our flag. March on the colors. I pledge allegiance to the flag Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in a moment of silence for all veterans. Thank you. Post the colors. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Please be seated. Today we are here to honor Sergeant Richard Talcott, a very courageous veteran who served during World War II. A military veteran is defined by federal laws as any person who served for any length of time in the military service. But a veteran is something more and may be described in the following way. A veteran has a sense of duty, honor, commitment, loyalty, sacrifice, selfless service, and courage. These are ordinary men and women who have made a conscious decision to raise their right hand and swear an oath to their country, to become something greater than just themselves, and to serve, protect, and defend our nation from enemies, both foreign and domestic. There is nothing more noble than service to your country, and we honor all of our airmen, Coast Guard, Marines, sailors, and soldiers who have served in the past and continue to serve in harm's way today. All of us who have served have taken an oath. It is quite simple. I, Neil O'Connell, will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, to bear true faith and allegiance to the same. So help me God. At the young age of 19 in March 1943, Sergeant Richard John Talcott raised his hand to enlist. He was one of the many that stepped forward from the greatest generation. While a simple oath is not a simple calling, some take the service and that oath for granted. Veterans do not. So often veterans are approached by folks within the population with a very simple phrase that veterans love to hear. Thank you. Thank you for your service to your country. And thank you for serving. Well, as veterans collectively, that's what we are about to do today. Once again, thanking Sergeant Talcott, without forgetting the sacrifices that were borne by his family either. At this time, I'd like to tell you just a quick couple of things regarding this beautiful memorial that you're looking at this morning. The memorial in front of you was dedicated in 1954 and served primarily for veterans who served prior to and during the Korean War. In most recent years, the memorial was expanded and is now the largest war memorial west of the Mississippi River. The Vietnam Wall in Washington, D.C. is the largest in the United States. Our memorial here in San Diego honors United States veterans from all branches of service, such as Sergeant Talcott. In 2006, the Mt Soledad Memorial became a national memorial monument to veterans. However, since July 17th, 2015, this property is now owned by the Mt Soledad Memorial Association, which many people are very happy for. Thank you. Thank you very much. The memorial is one of the highest points in San Diego County, rising some 900 feet above sea level. It's a very prominent feature to many. To some within the community, they've never been here to see it, believe it or not. As you look around you, have a beautiful panoramic view to the north, to beautiful golf courses, to the coastline, to the state parks, to the west, to the Pacific Ocean, our beautiful city, our bay, and the surrounding hills and foothills of the county. But more importantly, to go back in time, during the era of Sergeant Talcott, looking to the north, south, east, and west, you'd be surrounded by military installations of all services. To the east, right in front of myself, was the old Camp Elliott, a training ground for many, many thousands of Marines and soldiers who embarked into the Pacific battles in World War II. You have Marine Corps Air Station Miramar, the former Naval Air Station. To the south, we have our beautiful bay, which is the headquarters of our 3rd Fleet and 32nd Street Naval Forces. Coronado Island, with the amphibious forces, our Navy SEALs. North Island, across from our airport. To the north, right over here at UCSD at one time, was the old Camp Matthews, a rifle range for U.S. Marines who trained for World War II as well as in Korea. And all the way up to the north, you have the hills of Camp Pendleton. To the west, out in the Pacific, you may not see it, but the silent service of U.S. Navy submariners exists in the deep trenches of the Pacific, probably as we speak right now, as well as the naval vessels that ship out from here for long destinations. It is quite unique, and so it is such that these walls that you look at and you can witness depict all the service of thousands of veterans, many of who came through San Diego. We are very, very trusted to honor all veterans of all wars, serving from far back as the Revolutionary War to current conflicts, living and deceased. This is the only memorial that allows a photo and the war record on the plaque. That is very special to a lot of families. These plaques are photo engraved using the same black granite which is used at the Vietnam Memorial Wall in Washington, D.C. We have presidents on our walls: Gerald Ford, Ronald Reagan, Dwight Eisenhower, Harry Truman. There are several Medal of Honor recipients, to include Audie Murphy, Admiral Stockdale, John Lee Levitow, John Baca, Navy SEAL Michael Monsoor, Chief Petty Officer John Finn. John recently passed away a few years ago at the age of 101. We also have other notables such as James Stewart, Cliff Robinson, Glenn Miller, Bob Hope, Jerry Coleman, our Padre sportscaster and Marine aviation hero, U.S. Army General Jack Pershing, U.S. Army General George S. Patton, Captain Wally Schrar, astronaut, and Gregory Pappy Boyington, honored here Memorial Day 2011. And on our Allied walls, we recently added Winston Churchill. We have many, many Marines, soldiers, airmen, and sailors from recent battles in Iraq and Afghanistan as well. We also are very honored to have plaques here for Tyrone Woods and Glenn Doherty, our SEALs who were killed in Benghazi. But today, we have another very special veteran that we would like to honor. Sergeant Richard Talcott, a veteran from the greatest generation who served gallantly in the European, Mid-Eastern, North African theater of operations. I will just share with you a brief overview of his service. Like many from the greatest generation, he joined the Army very young. He was born in September 1924 in Fayette County, Iowa. He entered the U.S. Army on March 26, 1943 at the young age of 19. A few years older than these gentlemen to my right. In September 1944, his unit deployed to Germany. He immediately made rank due to the attrition within his unit and became a sergeant squad leader with Company F of the 395th Infantry. His service spanned tours in the European theater within Germany, France. Sergeant Talcott fought in the Rhineland, the Ardennes. But notably, he fought in the Battle of the Bulge with very close fights against the Germans in a frigid climate with a high casualty rate. It was there he was wounded. He was wounded twice and was awarded the Purple Heart. He was consequently awarded the Bronze Star Medal on 2 other occasions for his courageous and gallant efforts as a squad leader. He returned to the U.S. after serving over 14 and a half months overseas away from his family in December of 1945. He was 21 years of age when he came home. We are thankful and grateful to be able to recognize about a 3-year span of his service with a beautiful plaque. Sir, thank you for picking us and choosing us, and shortly we will show you this beautiful plaque over to my left. It is at this time that I would like to introduce Mr. John Talcott to the podium.
Thank you, Neil. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm John Talcott. I'm Dick Talcott's son. I'd like to welcome you to San Diego, to my father's honor ceremony dedicating his plaque here at the Veterans Memorial. I want to thank the members of today's color guard from Westview High School. We appreciate your presentation of the colors today. I want to thank Neil and Bruce from the Veterans Memorial Association for hosting this ceremony. I also want to thank them both for their service to our country and any other veterans that are here today. I want to thank the Veterans Memorial Association for creating and maintaining this memorial site. Through the years, it has at times been a fight to keep this memorial here, and I want to thank the association for never giving up. I'd also like to thank all of you for being here, especially those who have traveled from out of town here today. Allow me to introduce some of our out-of-town guests. If you don't mind, raise your hand. From Tacoma, Washington is my mother, Barbara Talcott. She just had her 90th birthday last month. Happy birthday, Mom. And from Portland, Oregon, this is my father's youngest sister, my Aunt Beth Christensen. And her daughter and my cousin, Amy Sim. Also from Seattle, my brother David Talcott and his companion Trish. My sister Jane Talcott from Seattle. And from Tucson, Arizona, is my cousin Ginger Curry and her husband Steve Curry. In the back there. My 4 children are here from Las Vegas, my son Andrew and his wife Samantha. And my son Adam Talcott, Nikki Talcott, my daughter, and Holly Talcott. And of course my wife JoJo Talcott is here as well. And I want to give a big thanks to all of my friends and relatives here today. Thank you all for being here and sharing this moment with us. You might be wondering why I embarked on the journey to have a plaque here at the Veterans Memorial for my dad. It's actually very, very simple. I miss him. I miss not being able to ask for his advice. I miss conversations with him about sports, world events, and so forth. And I realize now that his life and who he was had a profound impact on who I am today. My mom cared for my dad the final 5 years of his life. She was a saint. He was only 71 years old when he passed away on August 26, 1996. JoJo and I come to this Veterans Memorial often. We've been here for Memorial Day, Veterans Day, the annual blessing of the bikes, but more often just to enjoy the beautiful view of San Diego. On Memorial Day, we ride the Harley to Fort Rosecrans National Cemetery to honor our deceased veterans and visit the graves of JoJo's relatives there. When I visit my family in Tacoma, I make sure to visit my dad's grave. Yes, I miss him. And I began to think what I could do for him, and I thought of a wonderful thing to do to honor his service to our country with a perpetual plaque here at this memorial. I could visit him more often, and my family could too. My father and the other veterans memorialized here deserve so much more than we could ever give them for their service and sacrifice to our nation. On March 15, 1943, my dad was only 19 years old when he entered the service at Fort Dodge, Iowa, a young man answering his nation's call to service in World War II. He arrived in Europe October 10, 1944 as part of Company F in the 2nd Battalion of the 395th Infantry Regiment, part of the 99th Infantry Division. In December 1944 through January 1945, during the Battle of the Bulge, his regiment, at times virtually surrounded by Germans, was one of the few units that did not yield ground to the attacking Germans. Their success, as a result of their success, the 395th Infantry Regiment was repeatedly assigned to other divisions for difficult assignments during the remainder of the war. My father was wounded at the Battle of the Bulge, January 22nd, 1945 in Belgium, and was wounded again May 14th, 1945 in Germany, receiving 2 Purple Hearts. He also earned 3 Bronze Battle Stars. He returned to Webster City, Iowa, December 23rd, 1945. He was 21 years and 3 months old, and certainly not the same man he was just 20 months earlier when he entered the service. As I was growing up, my dad rarely said anything about the war. The only thing I remember him saying was something about how cold it was that December in Belgium. He was very humble and never tooted his own horn. So thank you, Dad. Thanks not just for being a great dad, raising a family of 5 children, but for being my hero. You demonstrated to all of us the quiet courage and strength that helped you through the war and helped you through the rest of your life. Thank you for your selfless sacrifice and service to our country, but most of all, thanks for being my dad. I love you. And now, with Neil's help, I'd like to play an audio recording from my dad's memorial service nearly 20 years ago. The voice you're about to hear is his war buddy, Cyril Van Selis. He was there that day, and we were very fortunate he was able to attend the memorial service. And I want to share with you his memories that he shared with us that day.
Dick and I were in the Army together. We were in the 99th Division together. Has anybody else in the room ever been in the 99th? Good, then I can tell you what great heroes we were. I've been sitting looking at that sign. Dick and I were tried by fire. I recognize it's a different fire than they're talking about there. Dick and I should have been killed in World War II. We were both in instances where if God's hand hadn't been on our shoulder, I'm satisfied we would have both been killed. And I've wondered over the years why we weren't. When I look at Dick's family, I understand why he wasn't. When I look at my wife, I understand why I wasn't. Dick and I have had some unusual experiences. We went as long as 2 months without a bath or a shower. It was quite a ripe time. Dick, the soldier, was all man. Soldiers are gripers and complainers. There was another word for it in the Army I won't use, but Dick Talcott was not a griper or complainer. I first met Dick in Texas when we were going to a special school, and there was this quiet guy from Iowa that was in a couple of doors down the hall from me that you hardly knew he was there. And it took several months to get acquainted with him. Does that surprise you, fellas? And I didn't pay much attention to him at first, because he never said anything. We had a lot of guys that talked all the time, you know, and they got all the attention. But Dick taught me a real lesson. Just keep your mouth shut and do your job. And when we got into combat, I really appreciated that. Because he's the guy that I want in the foxhole in my back if I ever had to go to war again. A lot of guys told you what great soldiers they were going to be and how good they were and what they would do. Dick didn't tell you that, but by his action he showed it. And that's a lesson I've never forgotten, was let your actions speak so loud they can't hear what you're saying. We went through the Battle of the Bulge together. And those of you that aren't familiar with that, you might want to go look at the history book. It was a very important time in Talcott and Van Silas's life. That was one of the places where we almost got killed. He was wounded, got sent back. I was in the 1st Battalion, he was in the 2nd Battalion in the same regiment. So we were in the same general area. While we never saw each other very much, I was in a Battalion 8 station, so I could keep contact with where he was and what was happening to him. And that was the first instance where I knew he was wounded. Well, we survived that little episode of about 30 days, and this went on in the coldest winter in 50 years. And Dick was an infantryman. I was in a Battalion 8 station, and our job was to pick up the pieces and patch them up and send them on back and try to save lives. Dick, unfortunately, was an infantryman who carried a rifle, and those poor guys, there isn't any tougher job in the world, folks, than being an infantryman in combat in the front lines, particularly when there's a foot of snow on the ground and it's 10 degrees. We got through that. And in the Remagen Bridge,